Yeah, I mean, super succinctly, the struggle was a kind of a battle of deep suicidal depression into extreme mania and not sleeping and starting lots of projects, and a journey of 4 or 5 years of, attempted suicides into being sectioned and arrested and so on, and being wildly unstable and unbalanced. And that was really the crux of it. There was a big piece for me around shifting away from hedonism, instant gratification, short-term gains, into this idea of like eudaimonism that I learned on Miko psychology, like self-actualization, doing what really sustains you long-term, that nourishes the depths of your being, regardless of if you want to be doing it in this moment. The long-term insight always. Slowing down, doing what I know nourishes and centers me, and it's been a real journey of getting there. And it really gave me so much perspective on what I'm capable of. Actually, the greatest gift of all was knowing that I'm capable of all of these things and anything. And when I was manic, I felt that, I believed that, I fully, wholeheartedly believed I could do anything on this earth. And I achieved a lot in that time. I also destroyed a lot in that time. But it was just that real knowing that I've never forgotten. And I got a tattoo on the back of my neck, absolute equality. I wanted to bring absolute equality to earth, and I believed I could do it. Absolute equality. It's just like an A and an E. And
absolute equality.
And I believe that. I wholeheartedly believe that. It's the core of my being. And that I was going to be the individual to do that. And now in a much more grounded state, I know that we as humanity and society, I believe it was a collective piece coming through for me at that time, we are capable of bringing equality and opportunity in some way, however that manifests. Absolute equality is not possible. But it's a piece around actually, yeah, we can create our own reality and we're capable, and manifesting it isn't as easy as thinking about it and dreaming about it. Manifesting it is like, what's the phrase? Like a dream broken down into steps is a plan, and a plan backed by actions is reality, or something along those lines. And it's like just the little building blocks. And so it just gave me a real deep knowing that we can create goodness in the world, you and I and the collective and the community as a whole, and that I can't do it alone. And so from that journey, I now only work in teams. Actually, I'll never do anything alone. If you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together. And I've really learned that.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of For Soul's Sake, a conversation in which we bring you the best in wellness to have a candid, honest convo around wellness, spirituality, community. Today's conversation is going to include community gathering, bringing people together for higher purpose. And I'm just really honored and blessed to be joined by Zak Avery, who is a very versatile individual, known for his work as an event producer, community builder, men's work facilitator, and nature-based practitioner. He is dedicated to promoting conscious living and fostering authentic connections among individuals. Zak leads the Menspedition, a transformative men's rites of passage pilgrimage. That sounds incredible. Guiding participants towards personal growth and self-discovery. As the co-director of Medicine Festival, a not-for-profit gathering, he inspires authentic connections and regeneration for people and the planet. He's also an eco-psychologist in training, exploring the deep connections between individuals and the natural world. His studies aim to deepen our understanding of harmonious living on the planet. Zak's commitment to building conscious communities led him to Soul, where he serves as the culture director. This intentional community supports personal and collective growth, fostering collaboration and shared values. Zak, this is incredible. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for
having me. It's a real blessing to have you here, mate.
It's a blessing to be here.
And you're working flat out, like you're doing so much, and that you've carved out this time. I'm deeply grateful. Is it intense right now?
It's intense, man. Yeah, this is kind of the time of the year where it all amalgamates and it becomes pretty non-stop and relentless in a beautiful way as well. But space is few and far between. And particularly this year, lots of new things are birthing and emerging.
Tell me.
Well, particularly Soul. This idea of bringing and weaving community in a more ongoing format, I guess, living and thriving together in a space is a really big piece. And some of that we're actually trying to also integrate into Medicine Festival as well, engaging the community throughout the year, as opposed to just having these kind of one-off unique expressions, right, where they have these beautiful transformative experiences. these great catalysts for change, but then we go back and we revert to our usual way of being, the monotony of our day-to-day lives, and all of the magic that we're infused with, the connection to spirit and community and other and self falls away, and we revert back to our original way of being. And I'm really on the inquiry right now in both of these projects as to how we can support and sustain that momentum. How can we further ignite the fire that lies deep within our bellies when we gather together with shared purpose?
What I found incredible about your journey and what you do is that, yes, you've got this mammoth, amazing opportunity in front of you, but that you're doing it so strategically, you're doing it so, from what I can see, efficiently, consciously. There's an underlying thread. There's a quote that comes to mind, actually. Martin Luther King said this, that those who love peace need to learn how to organize themselves better than those who love war. Paraphrasing, I can't remember the exact quote. But those who love peace need to learn how to organize themselves more effectively than those who love war. And for me, you're like an example of that. Like I personally this is the first time we're meeting, but I can see it from a distance that you're quite intentional by how you place your energy. Have you always been like that? Like, has it always been, you've been organized and like trying to build communities consciously since a young age? Or is it something that just kind of sprouted from maybe an inspirational moment? Or tell me about that.
Yeah, well, thank you. First and foremost, it's beautiful that I'm perceived that way from the outside. In reality,
I hope I got it right.
Like, I'm like a duck and underwater. I'm like paddling frantically, trying to keep it all together. But I have kind of always been this like relentless project starter. If I'm really honest with you, so many ideas, too many pies, not enough fingers. And yeah, that's actually been both my greatest gift and my biggest detriment in many ways. From my early years, even pre-uni, starting projects, getting to university, having 4 projects on the go at the same time, and struggling to maintain any of them, and the one that's thriving then starts to suffer. And it's that reality that there's only a certain amount of butter, and you need to pick the toast that you spread it on. And I'm really, really trying to learn that. And to really integrate that into my life. And I still struggle, but I'm starting to forgive myself and accept that's who I am, and see myself as a node in the wider web of community and humanity. And that I have a certain gift to ideate, to bring people together, to inspire people, to initiate these things, which I'm really blessed to have, but I'm not the detail man, I'm not the granular guy. I'm not the guy to maintain momentum. I'm not the guy to do so much stuff. There's so many things that I can't do, and it's been a real gift to recognize my weaknesses and to really be like, that these are things I can't do, and actually recognize the piece that I can do, and that is to ignite and to start projects. And I'm continuing to do that now, and I really hope that I can step into my power and my strength in that space, and equally yearn to find more space to look after myself. To make space to care and to love myself and my vessel and my body and my mind. And that's been something I've overlooked for many years, and has sent me into many spirals of highs and lows over the years. And now I find myself in this space of centeredness and balance internally.
I'm trying to learn that myself. I'm trying. It's a daily thing now.
It's a daily thing forever. And we'll never stop learning, right? Just accepting that too.
Community is a big word, I think, in your life, gathering people together. But I want to go into the challenges of community building. Because, see, like, I saw the roster for Medicine Fest, and I was like, there's some big names on there, but there's also maybe a chance that you're going to have to deal and navigate with people's desires, egos, people that come on the festival with expectations, maybe not matching those expectations. What have been maybe the biggest challenges that you've seen, and what have been your reactions to those? The challenges of community building.
The biggest challenge of community building, I think, is that everyone has an opinion, and everyone unconsciously, intentionally or not, kind of lives within their subjective view of the world and how it should be. And objectively, we're really trying our best to do really wonderful work and to bring people together and to support the communities that need it, and to be a bridge both between these communities and these leaders and these elders and these people that hold so much wisdom, and us here that are seeking some of that can take some parts of that wisdom, these soft technologies, these ideas and philosophies that they carry, but also bridge the people that have like stepped really fully into this space of like self-actualization, the descent to soul, the journey of uncovering one's real gifts, right, through spirituality or however you want to frame it. And many people have an idea of how that should be done, how that should manifest, the things that should be in place in order to best facilitate that. And we are equally just on an inquiry, you know. We're not saying we know the right way or we don't. We're just exploring it collectively in community, you know. And some people have an opinion on how we're doing that. I have done over the years, and I think slowly we're ironing out the creases and we're hearing people's feedback and we're learning, you know, we're failing forwards, you know, which is something failing forwards is something I've always done. And I'm blessed to see it like that now. You know, every failure being a gift, being the experience points in a computer game to move me forwards, not fearing failure, or fearing the thought of what could go wrong, but being excited about what could go right. And what doesn't challenge you doesn't change you. And we've really learned that. Most of the deep learnings, and they're like collective learnings too. You know, we're having them on an individual level within the organization and the gathering, interpersonally within the core team and within the wider community of the gathering and the festival. But these pieces, these issues, these upheavals, eruptions are where all the growth is for us, and seeing them that way and supporting the community to see them that way too. Wow. And the key piece, and this is something that really wanting to translate into Anne's soul, is having the foundational systems, frameworks and processes in order to deal with these effectively, in order to make decisions effectively, in order to take feedback receptively, in order to recognize yourself as one part of a wider being, that we are the same whole, and our well-being, our thriving is reliant on one another, and giving each other space to express wholeheartedly our kind of individual self and expression within that wider container. And that's something that I think will be on the inquiry of forever and we'll never find a solution to. But it really feels like as a society and within both these organizations, we're moving towards that in a really beautiful way.
There's definitely an underlying humility, I think, that comes across. Like, if you want to build community, you start with knowing it's not all about me, but seeing the collective, seeing the opportunity for learning, failing forwards. These are all kind of sutras that you're speaking. As you're speaking, I'm like, wow, that's a good one line. That's a good quote. That's a little like one sutra there. And I think that's quite powerful how you're seeing this as an opportunity for learning and growth. And you mentioned the word elder in there. Learning from elders, drawing from higher sources or those that have the experience. And I think what's interesting in today's world is that we somewhat deny the authoritative testimony. There's this principle in Bhakti that speaks about how knowledge can be gathered from three different places. One is from sense perception, seeing is believing. One is mental speculation, that you go, I think I know the distance from here to here is this many centimeters, so therefore mentally I can calculate the distance from here to there, etc. That's just an example. And then the final way of gathering knowledge is authoritative testimony, that how do you know who your father is? Yes, you need to go to a doctor. You know, there has to be an authority that knows, has maybe a knowledge beyond yours. And I think we live in an age where, maybe this is heavy, but the age of guru is dying, that people aren't looking so much for elders. However, there's so much a need for that also. Like, maybe, yeah, it's just a generational thing. Authority is kind of like, yeah, no one wants anything to do. But how do you see, or what is the role for you, or maybe some insight around gathering knowledge from elders?
So, a great question. And the piece you speak around the era of the guru dying, it's finding its place again, I think. Having discernment and understanding the nuance in all lived expression, and not having one person that it can completely dictate and guide your life, because that's can be dangerous. And realizing that you are your own teacher It's like that intuition, that inner tutor, the tutor within, and trusting that actually the idea of Thich Nhat Hanh, of interbeing, that the other is a varied expression of oneself and that we are not separate. That we are not separate from nature or one another. And so I think externalizing your power can really stunt your growth, because you're resting all of that upon another. And I think that can be really dangerous and unhelpful fundamentally for your growth. And the journey inwards as well as onwards, right? Like I say, Bill Plotkin's piece around the descent to soul, really uncovering and peeling back the layers of trauma and self-loathing to find the seed that lies within. And I think that you cannot fully do that. You cannot fully commence on the pilgrimage inward until you have fully accepted that you are guiding this vessel. You can be the master of your ship and the captain of your soul, but until you realize that life is happening from you and not to you, you are creating that, then you cannot be wholeheartedly in your power. And so I think there's so much that we can learn from these elders, these gurus, these wisdom carriers, as we do, and I do, and I have, and I will continue to. And I absolutely have role models, heaps of them, and mentors that help guide and support me.
How does one go about finding the right mentor? Like you spoke about discernment. What are the kind of things that you've experienced that have been maybe trigger points of things that you just go, okay, here's someone I want to lean towards and learn from, and here's someone maybe that doesn't, vibe with. Like, what are the kind of key indicators for you when it comes to finding someone who's a mentor, finding someone who's a guru, a teacher, a guide, an elder?
For me,
deep question.
It's a great question, and actually one that I think not enough people ask. Not enough people seek mentorship. Equally, it goes the other way, right? The balance swings the other way, where there's so many people that think, I don't need anyone. Often that's embedded in childhood trauma, being abandoned by your parent, whatever it may be, whatever the story is, whatever your journey's been. Often this idea of like, I'm an individual and I'm strong enough can be people's greatest challenge too, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not seeking support and help of others that have walked this path before them. And so I have a few mentors in my life in different areas. I have, I guess, life mentors. I have business mentors. I have specific kind of career, project, passion mentors in many different ways, and role models that I perhaps wouldn't call mentors, but people I admire. And all of those have been people that have displayed absolute acts of integrity. And for me, I guess that's the value. It's this idea of you spot it, you got it, And
you spot it, you've got it.
You recognize something in someone, a trait, a quality. That's something that really deeply resonates with you because you admire it and you want to express it yourself.
Yeah.
And I think integrity is really that one for me. And when someone displays this radical act of integrity, of stepping into their truth because it's what they believe is right and what the world needs, like I get goosebumps talking about it, like just remembering some of these situations in which that's happened. And I'm like, wow, I admire that person. I want to be like that person. And generally they've been older than me, and generally they've been more experienced in the fields and the spaces in which I wish to explore and to progress. And actually, I've had people ask me, so I know how it feels now, as of late and quite recently, to be their mentor.
Yeah.
And that feeling, you feel like you're taking something from them, right? Because they're busy people, probably. If they're people you admire, maybe not. And you're like, will you be my mentor? And to them, that's the greatest gift ever, right? Because for them, they're like, wow, I'm showing up in a way that this person admires me enough to share my experience. And it's a really potent and powerful thing. They become a best friend, a guide, a mentor. One of my early mentors, my first mentor really, is now kind of a father figure to me, actually, which is really beautiful.
Do you mind sharing the name?
John Ross.
John Ross.
I'm actually one of the best men at his wedding coming up in September, which is beautiful. But the real beauty of that is he was my mentor, my first mentor and support and guide in this world when I was going through an incredibly challenging time. But the thing that I love is that we've really mentored each other in very different ways. And there's so much he's given me that I could never offer him back. But there's loads that I've offered him. There's loads of perspective and framing and insight and gifts that I've given him. And I know that, and he reflects that to me. And so just knowing that that's a two-way street and that there's reciprocity in every part of our existence and being, the reciprocity of the inhale of the carbon dioxide that we take from the trees and the exhale of the oxygen that feeds them and nourishes them back. It's exactly the same in our relating with other beings and humans. It's a constant dance of give and take. And so the inquiry of mentorship is something that I think you just need to ask for. You need to ask the universe for it, ask yourself for it, your guides, whatever you call to. But actually just ask the people that you admire to do that.
It has to be a desire first.
It has to be a desire first. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can't facilitate that. That needs to just emerge.
You spoke about you going through perhaps a rough phase, and I think that people are always interested in the human story. I don't open generally our conversations on this podcast with a human story, but you mentioned it like you were going through a period of struggle, and what looks like now, from my perspective anyway, is a period of stability in your life, from struggle to stability. And I mean, yeah, it would be interesting to know that story, but I think also maybe some life lessons that you've kind of gathered along the way.
Yeah, I mean, super succinctly, the struggle was a kind of a battle of deep suicidal depression into extreme mania and not sleeping and starting lots of projects, and a journey of 4 or 5 years of, attempted suicides into being sectioned and arrested and so on, and being wildly unstable and unbalanced. And that was really the crux of it. The label of bipolar didn't resonate with me at all. The idea that I have perhaps a larger emotional capacity than I know how to channel or balance in a healthy way does. And I think that still exists within me. I just now have the tools and the practices in which to harness that and to just to know myself. Not really know myself because I'm still learning myself, but to better know myself and my triggers, really. And so the great lesson for me there was really around trusting myself ultimately is the space I've come to. There was a big piece for me around shifting away from hedonism, instant gratification, short-term gains, into this idea of like eudaimonism that I learned on Miko psychology, like self-actualization, doing what really sustains you long-term, that nourishes the depths of your being, regardless of if you want to be doing it in this moment. The long-term insight always. Slowing down, doing what I know nourishes and centers me, and it's been a real journey of getting there. And it really gave me so much perspective on what I'm capable of. Actually, the greatest gift of all was knowing that I'm capable of all of these things and anything. And when I was manic, I felt that, I believed that, I fully, wholeheartedly believed I could do anything on this earth. And I achieved a lot in that time. I also destroyed a lot in that time.
Interesting.
But it was just that real knowing that I've never forgotten. And I got a tattoo on the back of my neck, absolute equality.
We need to get a shot of that.
I wanted to bring absolute equality to earth, and I believed I could do it.
Absolute what is it?
It's just like an A and an E. And,
absolute equality.
And I believe that. I wholeheartedly believe that. It's the core of my being. And that I was going to be the individual to do that. And now in a much more grounded state, I know that we as humanity and society, I believe it was a collective piece coming through for me at that time. We are capable of bringing equality and opportunity in some way, however that manifests. Absolute equality is not possible. But it's a piece around actually, yeah, we can create our own reality and we're capable, and manifesting it isn't as easy as thinking about it and dreaming about it. Manifesting it is like, what's the phrase? Like a dream broken down into steps is a plan, and a plan backed by actions is reality, or something along those lines. And it's like just the little building blocks. And so it just gave me a real deep knowing that we can create goodness in the world, you and I and the collective and the community as a whole, and that I can't do it alone. And so from that journey, I now only work in teams, actually. I'll never do anything alone. If you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together. And I've really learned that. I guess they were my learnings in summary in that journey.
You've got a real clarity of thought. I love how, it's maybe because I'm also a kin like that. That's how I think. I also think in a very methodical way, and it's clear that you're also very clear-minded, and you're centered around some good intention. I love the piece around absolute equality, and I can very much resonate with the way that you speak and what you're speaking of. This quality is gifted to few. I think that everyone has their own talents, but I think that what you've got here is a real gift, and I think it's a blessing. I don't know if you're believing in God, but I think it's definitely a blessing by God that you've got something like this. What do you see as the ideal legacy you'd like to leave behind? Like what's the culmination of And Soul, Medicine First? If you could step back in 20 years and go, yeah, that was good. Absolute equality achieved.
supporting society to move away from the narrative of fear-driven scarcity and separation and the struggle for power and individual growth and strength into a shared vision of community, collaboration, shared abundance, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. I think supporting people to walk arm in arm, wholeheartedly, united in a shared vision of some sort, a shared vision of a better future, a new way of being on this earth, supporting people to shift their perspective that we are separate from one another. I really believe that this is a great quote from Daniel Christian Wall, but I really believe that ecological, environmental, social, political crises are ultimately the same crises, and that crisis is that we are separate.
Wow.
It's a crisis of perception, that you and I are separate, and that I need to take from you. And it's a big piece that comes up all the time, and every time I speak, it loops back to it, because I think it's the biggest crises we're facing in humanity and society right now. That piece around interbeing, that we are not separate from one another or the natural world. We are expressions of it and one another. Moving away from the anthropocentric, egocentric world.
Anthropocentric?
That humans are superior to everything else.
Uh-huh.
Egocentric, that I am superior to all other humans or more important. Ecocentric, that we are all the same and nature is equally valid. And so how can we live within the biophysical limits of the biosphere as a species? How can we wholeheartedly, to the core of our being, care as much for another as we do ourselves and the outcome of that? And I would love to support that in some way, shape or form. And I yearn to. And I think we are taking the steps now as a species in that direction. And again, there's extreme polarity right now.
Oh, yeah.
The duopoly of politics.
Has that always existed, though, do you think?
I think in some capacity. I think it's taken new forms and new shapes, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's always existed.
Okay.
I also think if you go back far enough, no, not at all. I think it's kind of this ebb and flow of, like, you know, perhaps how we, you know, the precession of the equinox and all of these, like, geological and social epochs that we go through in cycles. I think we're in one of those in some way, shape or form, and I'm sure many astrologers will tell me we are. I'm not so deep into the stars. I admire them, but I don't.
Me too.
And I think we're in a dance right now, and I think we're coming to this really beautiful, rich, deep, potent time of transformation. I believe that, and I think I have to believe that to continue the momentum and the passion that I have for my work and my life and my being and my expression on this earth. I feel like there's no other option but for me to be a complete optimist and to share that. I'm sure others feel differently. We're also in a great time of absolute destruction and chaos too. But it depends which way you see it. I see it as a great opportunity.
Yeah, there's an analogy that's given that in a moonlit sky, you can choose to focus on the darkness that surrounds the moon, or you can choose to focus on the brilliantly effulgent moon that also rests in the sky. It's a choice. And depending on perception, depending on the choice in which direction you look, you'll see two different things, but it's the same sky. And I think that that's very much the case with anyone that's trying to forge a path of love, of community, of gathering, of, in one sense, raising consciousness. In fact, not one sense, it is raising consciousness. That we can choose. I think every individual has a choice to go, I wish to see the moon in all of its glory, and also to help others to see the light that is also being shined, whilst also being conscious that we're surrounded by a dark night. Whilst also being conscious, I think both are required. What would you say to someone who is completely not of this world? You know, we come from a world of, in one sense, anti-materialism, anti-consumerism, a real going back to earth, a real coming together of people who are seeing each other with equality. In one sense, do you think people think we're off our rockers? And how do we get people to see? Do you think it's by example? Do you think there's any particular, like, revolutionary stance that all of us have to take? Or, what would be your kind of solution to people that don't see the world that we see it? And the reason why I'm asking is because I think the people that will tune into this conversation are going to be very much aligned with what we're speaking. But I think that all, including us, have got family members, friends that think we're off our rockers. And what do you think the steps are in order to not bring them all in alignment, but to share in a way that's soft and cultured and kind and loving?
You don't have to dive in head first and fully immerse yourself for the rest of your life to cross the threshold, right?
Wow.
You can tiptoe in and experience something.
Yeah.
You could go to a breathwork class. You could do some daily meditation for a month. You can have a philosophical conversation about something that doesn't align with your subjective views on the world and see where you end up. You know, I just invite people to begin exploring this. And for so many people, it is wildly abstract, metaphysical, unhinged, hippie woo-woo, right? But at the heart of it, it's just the expression of love. And I guess I ask these people, really, like, are you living in a space of love or fear in your life? Are you continuing with your work, your career, your ways of being, your thought, because you live in a space of fear or love? For many, it may be love.
Wow.
But for a lot of people I know that continue that, really it's the fear of not having a mortgage, the fear of not having their own house, the fear of not having the career they need, the fear of being left by their partner kind of keeps driving them in the space they are. And I feel like a lot of people in the space that we're in also experience that. But really they're trying to say, absolutely, we all do. I do, right? Yeah. But I feel like they're really trying to align with the space of love. And often it's as simple as that. The piece you speak about the moon is really dualistic, right? Like, it's perspective, but it's like you need both, right? The non-dual doesn't exist without the dual. Non-dualistic Shiva Tantric philosophy, you have to have the dual to have the non-dual, because that's why we call it non-dual, right? Not unity. It's like not two. It would just be called one otherwise. It's the awareness that the two exist, right? And the dualistic is part of that. And so just being in the dance of fear and love, and what does it feel like to step fully into love, to step out of your comfort zone? You know, like I said before, what doesn't challenge you doesn't change you, and your comfort zone is a beautiful place, but fuck all grows there. You know, so come out of it and step out of your sphere of competence. You know, that's really where the growth is. And Aubrey Marcus shares that excitement and fear stimulate the same physiological response in the body.
Say that again.
Excitement and fear stimulate the same physiological response in the body, right? It's just your understanding of what's going on there. You can shift that fear into excitement and propel yourself forward. And there's a great opportunity in doing so, and very few people ever look back. And hey, if you do, and it doesn't align, great, you can just return to who you are and where you're doing. But I guess the question is, like, what direction are you heading in? And are you really proud of the direction you're heading in? And if you continue to go there, will you be really satisfied with your life? You know, and if not, do you need to change that destination? Yeah. Confucius says, you know, the bird with no destination, no wind is favorable. And I really love that quote. It really resonates with me. Like, I know the direction I'm going. I might not know how it will manifest. I don't know what will happen. It's really scary. It's confronting, but I know the direction. The direction is towards unity, love, connection, togetherness, supporting life on earth, supporting people to thrive, to step into their power, to wholeness. That's my destination. How that manifests, the projects, the people, the challenges, that's the adversity I face, that's the nuance, the detail, that's getting granular. That doesn't really matter, you know, because I'm living in alignment with my purpose and my being, and I'm waking up determined that I'm going to bed satisfied every fucking day. And that is why I live. That's why I'm here on this earth, to support others to do that too.
I think there's a responsibility, like, whether you call it those who are awakened and those who are still perhaps awakening, I think that it's happening for everyone. I think that there is a huge responsibility for those that are trying to live a lifestyle that you're speaking about, to be kind to those that maybe aren't yet fully in line or fully agree with what you're speaking about. It's a killing with kindness. I think that there is so much to be said about people don't care what you know until they know that you care. People really don't give a crap. Like, you could have the highest philosophy, but if you're not speaking it in a loving way and you're not inviting people to go, come dance, Hafiz says it, no? Come dance with me. Come dance with me. And that means that you have to invite people kindly. It's like, you can't just grab them by the scruff of the neck. Maybe some you can, depending on the person. But I think there is so much to be said about being welcoming of people. Because I'm pretty certain at Medicine Fest, you're going to get people that are fully bought into your vision. And there's going to be people that are going to go, I just want to check this out. I want to see what this is all about. And just because you don't, when people are looking around in the audience and the gathering that's going to culminate there, I think there's a responsibility for all of us to go, come dance with me. No, you come as you are. You don't need to speak the same lingo that I do to be, you don't need to dress in a particular way. You come in a shirt and tie. There's a beautiful quote that Bhaktivedanta Swami says. He says, you can be God conscious in suit and tie. I think that sometimes we can divide based on dress, based on the way we speak and whatnot. But if we can just say, no, come as you are, you're welcome. Come dance with me.
The invitation.
The invitation.
The difference between, forcing and inviting, between leading and dictating,
Right.
between like telling and showing. And it's like that piece of like just gently inviting people in. The invitation is there. There's no judgment. And I think there's a lot to be said for that way of being.
Definitely.
Society doesn't have enough of that. And I think these spaces do. And the ultimate question really, it's as simple as like, what's there to lose?
What's there to lose? What's the alternative?
The way of the peaceful warrior. I really love this piece around, try and paraphrase, I'll remember the quote. I would rather fail with the full force of my being than timidly avoid failure with a trembling spirit. I really love that.
Confirmed.
There you go, confirmed.
Bell just rang.
Technology agrees, concurs.
Wow. Let's talk menspedition. Let's talk men empowerment. Women empowerment has very much been exploding, in my opinion. But I think that men having safe space to grow is amazing. I think that what you're providing with menspedition is incredible. What is your utopic view of how men could live in a, holistic way? What is your dream and vision for men of this world? Big question.
For men to be supported, to be vulnerable, to cry, to weep, to wholeheartedly express their emotions, to not fear judgment, to be in their truth, whether that is deep rage or painful grief, however that manifests, to feel safe to do that, particularly in many ways in front of other men, in spaces with other men that often most men have a past experience or trauma with in some way, shape or form. To leap out of societal conditioning that men are strong and brave and independent and grow up and man up and grow some balls and all of these, pieces that have shaped the modern man. To leap out of that conditioning and to step into our truth as beings on earth, imbued with emotion. And I think these spaces are incredibly supportive of that. For so many, they've never been in a space where they've had permission to cry.
Sounds so foreign.
For so many men.
To cry.
To be in circle and to talk about your deepest grief or your biggest shame, your guilts, your fears, to have spaces, frameworks, processes, maps, archetypes to unpack and explore that, to better not just like cognify why this is happening, but then to embody it, to experience it, to feel it, and then to know that there's a group of men there holding you through that journey and this is your space to explore that. We just don't have that. I'd never experienced that till I stepped into a space with men, and the healing that can happen is absolutely profound.
Yeah, in the Vedic culture, there is this like principle of brahmachari that it's called 4 different ashrams. And the first one, it involves monk life, spending time with men, training, learning, and same with women as well. It's Vaishnava. You spend time growing, learning together. And me remembering my small amount of time doing that was so formative. Like, it gave me so much IQ. Yes, I learned a lot of things, skills, to-dos, to-bes, and all, but also EQ. I learned a lot about how to manage emotions in that environment. And I just wish it would happen in school. I wish as children, like, this is something that I'm really trying with my son, is telling him every day, I love you, cuddle you, I'll cry with you, I'll laugh with you. You can see my whole range of emotions. One of our previous guests, Ben Bidwell, he spoke about the Jungian archetypes and how men sometimes get locked into always just being a warrior, always being strong, always just exhibiting this manifestation energy. But if we just were able to tap into the EQ side of us, the emotional quotient, that being able to go, I'm also soft, I'm also kind, I'm also loving, and being able to just portray that, especially like you said, among men, that's flipping powerful. Where do you think, say for example, someone lives remotely, like nowhere near the stuff that you're doing, Menspedition, all the things Zak Avery, because I'm sure people are so attracted by what you're speaking about, and like some men would probably just go, sign me up, like where can I join? But it's just not realistic. Say if I'm living in New Zealand, if you're from New Zealand, hello. If you're in New Zealand and you're a man or you're a woman and you want to feel the ability to gather in such a way, where do you start? Like, how do you build that opportunity for yourself?
You just do it.
Straight
You
up.
create yourself.
Just do it.
So many men have come on these, Menspedition, but also all the other men's work organizations out there. And there's heaps here in the UK right now.
We're lucky here.
We're really lucky.
Yeah.
And there's heaps all around the world, really, but perhaps not in many countries and many spaces and many communities.
By the way, New Zealand, I don't know if there is. I made a generalization. You probably have it.
Yeah, they probably do, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere. But it's also like if you're seeking a circle and it's miles away and it's hard to find, then surely that justifies you setting one up yourself.
Straight up.
And it's not like you have to be an epic space holder and really well versed in the processes and the archetypes and have read 1,000 books and listened to 1,000 podcasts.
Right.
You just need to say, hey, I want to just be in circle and talk real shit. I just want to be in a space where I can be authentic. I don't want to go to the pub and chat about football or whatever. I just want to be in a space and sit in circle and we have a monthly theme or a weekly theme and we just explore that. And, they can learn some basic principles around things like confidentiality and other basic, simple guidelines that will support them to hold that container. They could attend an online circle. There's heaps. We do them. And learn the very, very loose basic framework and then take that to their community. And loads of men that have come on the Menspedition and other organizations that I've been a part of have left and done that. Wow. Friends now, like a good friend of mine that's been on 4 or 5 of them, maybe 3 or 4, now does like a men's circle and woodwork session. They go and they carve in the woods and they sit around a fire and they have a circle every month. And it's been great medicine for him and his community.
We need to do that, Kaylee. We need to go in the woods, do some woodwork, build a fire.
And just talk, man.
Just talk.
And talk in a way, the real piece for me anyway, at least about being in circle, because there's much more to men's work. There's many more threads to it and explorations within that. But the very simple piece around a circle that anyone can really do is just actively listening. It's very rare that we are in a space where I am allocated a certain amount of time. No one is interrupting. No one is trying to fix me. No one is trying to tell me what to do. No one is trying to console me. I am just having a space to express and to be seen and to see other men in that. And there's so much medicine in what other men share, because there's always a correlation, right? As I said, we are interbeing, we are expressions of one another. Every man's struggle has some learning for you too. And it's deep medicine, really deep medicine.
I mean, just personally speaking, I really struggle with that, just being available to see, because my nature, or rather my conditioning, it may not be my nature, my conditioning is when someone opens up to me, I start going solution mode. I was like, oh yeah, maybe you should try this, maybe you should try that, maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that. Like, it's just my conditioning. And yeah, it works for some people, but some people really don't want that. And so just being aware of that for me is one thing. I think that men have this natural tendency, or let's talk stereotypically, I may be generalizing too much here, but there is this masculine energy of fixing, solution finding ways in which we can just make it work. But I think that this being able to just step back and go, I just want to hear you, mate. I just want to hear what you're going to say. I have no judgment. I'm not going to try and fix it for you. Just open up, open the book. Yeah.
You're not alone in that. I just want to tell you, I do
Straight
exactly
up.
the same, and I struggle with it all the time, and particularly with my partner, right? I just always trying to fix stuff. It's really tough, right? It's like the default is to go and to fix. And it's like, how do you hold space without minimizing their problem, but just hearing them and letting them know that what they're going through is valid and supporting them? And then now I'm finally, after all these years, slowly starting to get there, and I don't do it every time, but like also like requesting the invitation. Like, do you mind if I offer you something here, a reflection that might work? You know, asking for permission, you know, and until that point, holding space, supporting, hearing, it's really tough.
It's hard.
Societal conditioning means we fix immediately. And that's the warrior. That's, I don't know exactly what that is, but it's difficult. So you're not alone, and I'm sure many men and humans, women too, can relate in that piece.
Something that you're inspired by right now, something that's on your heart, something that's on your mind that you want to get across to the audience. You can even speak directly into the camera. What is it that you wish to portray in this moment here and now?
I don't know which camera I'm looking at. I'd rather look at you, I think.
All right.
We as beings, we as humans are designed to thrive. We are capable of being together, of thriving together, of supporting one another, of wholeheartedly communing wholesomely. I think many of us fear that. I think many of us are on this march for materialistic and technological advance and sustaining oneself. And I really wholeheartedly believe that we are stronger together, and that these gateways and opportunities are presenting themselves for us to be together in harmony, to support one another, to share our resources and our wisdom. This piece around community that keeps popping up, that is so alive for me right now, that's just like really emergent, and I feel is really what we need to come together. So even like these men's spaces, I have a real yearning to bring all of these men's spaces together to not just be a bigger organization and do more, but to actually support those that really need it. The men in prisons? The men in prison, you know, the men that can't afford it, the men that can't access it. It's the same as Ansel, this idea of really sitting together in circle, integrating some of these pieces in a community with 300 other people, where we can sit in circle and talk through our problems and find solutions and explore what's possible, to make sure everyone's voice is heard, to have a micro of the macro of what hopefully we are as a society one day, where we share our resources, where we support the people that are the weakest in the community. And I believe that these opportunities, not just in my work, but around the world, are really presenting themselves. And I really just invite people to step into that, to take the leap, to step through fear, to step out of the sphere of competence, and to challenge oneself.
Maybe Tatastu. You're empowered. You've got the blessing of being able to do something really powerful in this lifetime, and I mean, I'm just hoping I can be of some service in that. I hope that I can serve in some way to further that cause, because I think it's very needed in the world. So thank you. Should we do some quick fire round?
Sure,
let's do it. Something to close our conversation in a way that's fun and engaging.
Okay, cool.
What's something that you're curious about right now?
Regenerative cultures.
Regenerative cultures? I don't know what that is. It's not sure. By the way, this quick fire is like medium fire.
Okay. Learning from nature and the cycles of nature, and how we can embed some of that into the way that we live and our culture as beings, the way that we relate, the way that we're in community, the way that we structure business, our governance systems, how we can learn from nature, biomimicry within our cultural framework, within our socio-political, socio-economic climate. How can the natural world inform the decisions we make? And how can we see ourselves as expressions of nature, and our technologies as expressions of nature?
Powerful.
Ultimately. Yeah.
Question number 2. Where did you buy your clothes from?
Almost all charity shops.
Wow.
Almost everything I buy is from charity shops. Not explicitly, but I would say 80% of what I buy is secondhand. I used to buy and sell vintage clothing for years. It's what I did at university, and I still work within. So I really am acutely aware of the impact of the fashion industry.
Fast fashion.
It's the detriment to the planet. You know, the soil degradation, water pollution, human capital, carbon emissions. Every aspect of the fashion industry is destroying the world. It's like the second most polluting industry in the world, and very few people know about that in every facet. And I'm acutely aware, and I'm not saying I've never bought new clothes. That would be a complete lie. I'm by far from perfect, but
you're conscious.
I really try to buy secondhand, vintage or charity shop clothes. This was for a fundraiser for the Huni Quinn, actually. This is
Fundraiser for the
Huni Quinn,
Huni Quinn.
indigenous
Oh,
community
indigenous,
in the Amazon. So this was actually new, but it's like a sustainable piece. But I wanted to support them in the course. So
Wow.
there you go. Many exceptions.
Oofed. Question number 3. In short, what legacy? We've already done this, so I'm going to change it. In short, something you used to deeply value, but don't value as much anymore.
Being perceived to be successful. That's all I used to yearn for. The father wound of never being seen and my dad never appreciating me and just wanting to like have someone see and appreciate me. It's the biggest thing in my life. It's driven everything, and I have that to thank also for where I am at and the things that I'm doing. But I'm trying to let go of that as a need anymore. Step into service rather than be fueled by the ego.
Me and you both. And finally, if you could create one law that everyone had to follow in this world, what would it be?
I think it would be around ecocide. I think it would be to give nature rights as humans. To kill a tree is to kill a human, and you are convicted as so.
Wow.
To treat nature as we treat humans. I think that would alleviate a lot of the suffering in the world. To rip up oil from the ground, petrol, to destroy forests, to do all of this stuff. To stop that would, I think, alleviate so much of the world's problems. To stop turning the planet into products and people into services.
You're going to have to repeat that. Turning people into products.
To stop turning the planet into products and using people as services.
Wow. That dropped.
Equality and opportunity, not just for sentient beings on this earth, but for all forms of life. Depends if you're an animist or not, whether that resonates, but...
Incredible. I'm deeply, deeply grateful for this conversation because I feel, that I've learned a lot from just being in your association. I bought into your vision. I think from the outside in, I've seen, it's natural. You look at all the things the person's doing and go, that's nice, that's nice, that's nice, that's nice. And then you really want to meet the person. Who's the person behind it all? And I think your story from section to stability, your desire to bring about this eco-culture of consciousness, this consciousness of being more aware and more mindful of the way in which we live in this world is powerful. And what you're doing for men's empowerment and I'm very much inspired by your life. I think it's very, very powerful. And long may you be a beacon, my friend. Long may you be a beacon. And I'm looking forward to Medicine Fest. I'm thinking it's going to be epic. And Soul, just take me with you, wherever you're serving, make me of some service, Consider me your servant in that regard. Thanks.
Thank you
Thanks, Zak.
so much, brother, for your words, for your generosity. It takes a village. There's many, many epic humans involved in birthing all of these projects and bringing them all to reality. And you are one of them. Your music brings joy to so many. You weave community in so many ways. You inspire me in unfathomable amounts of ways. I yearn to be more of a musician. I see people like you, and I'm like, we can't do it all. And you have to choose your battles, or rather choose your dances. And I hope to continue weaving this thread of cultural co-creation with you, brother. I look forward to dancing with you in the woods. I look forward to celebrating life with you in many more situations and circumstances.
May it be.
Long may it be. Shut.
If you like this conversation, don't even hesitate. Share it. Send it to a friend. Tag a person in here that you feel really needs to hear what was being discussed here. This is a conversation that needs to carry on far beyond the walls of this microphone, this room, this space here. Zak and I, why not bring this conversation up at dinner? Why not bring this conversation up with a friend at lunch? Find that this is an ongoing awareness building, community building project. This is what this podcast is about, to bring about honest, candid conversations that you can bring forward into the world in a way in which it will transform people's minds and hearts. See you on the next one, for soul's sake.
For soul's sake, for soul's sake, for soul's sake, for soul's sake.